Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Startup Grind chapter of Kolkata. Many thanks and a very warm welcome to Minu ma'am and Priyam for joining us and for honoring us with their graceful presence. I have always been a fan of Cafe I Can Fly. I do know about all your other ventures, but then I have been a special fan of Cafe I Can Fly. I guess it's a wonderful concept and an amazing place to be. So, people of Kolkata, if you have not visited there, please visit, and it's a lovely place. You won't want to leave that place. Meenu ma'am and Priyam both are a part of Pattern Group of India, which is one of the largest conglomerates here in Kolkata. But today we are here to talk about their social enterprises, that is Caring Minds, which is a mental health institute, Cafe I Can Fly, which is run by special needs employees, and I Can Fly, which is again a educational institute for people with special needs. So welcome once again. So we are not going to waste any time because we really want to hear both of you and learn so much from you. So if you're ready, I'm going to start, and we'll start our fireside chat.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Suchi, and thank you, Startup Grind, for having us this evening. We're very happy to know that you've been to our cafe, and it has a special place in your heart, just like it does in our heart. So, really looking forward to the evening, and let's get started.
Yeah, thank you so much. So before anything else, I just want to know that you wonderful mother-daughter duo. You're such a dynamic duo, and that's why I had to name this event as Dynamic Mother-Daughter Duo. You're an inspiration probably for any mother-daughter who wants to break the glass ceiling. So you have so many, different roles. So if you both can, give us some words of, advice as to how you manage, so many different kind of roles, and how does it feel to be a dynamic mother-daughter duo? Over to you, any one of you.
Yeah, so I am a psychotherapist and counselor by profession, and I'm a founder of Minds I Can Fly and Cafe I Can Fly. So you say, how do we manage? How do we like both this thing? So me and Priya have very important and different roles to play. Priyam is the head of new initiative, where she takes on social media, take the organization to a new height, new initiative, and I am hands-on for daily work.
So it's amazing that you people have distributed your roles, so wonderfully. Priyam, do you want to add something to this? How has your experience being into different kind of roles, being a business development head somewhere, and then head of new initiative somewhere. So I'm sure you must have so many different hats to put on at different times. Quickly change from one to another. So do you want to add on something to that?
Yeah, this is actually a very interesting question. So, adding on to what my mom said, I work both with my mom and my dad. So, I actually was living in the UK, studying there, working there for 7 years. And after my studies and my work experiences there, I decided to move back to India because I felt that there's a lot of opportunity in the East. And there opportunity to join my dad and grow the business. So I joined Pattern Group, which is into manufacturing and exports of plastics and steel fittings, and play the role of business development. Whereas working with my mom is a whole different ballgame. I joined her in her ventures, which is Caring Minds, a mental health institute. Here I look after new initiatives. So what that means is anything to do with my background essentially is management studies. So anything to do with new campaigns, be it online campaigns, offline campaigns, social media marketing, or maybe like brand awareness, new strategies, collaborations. So that's my piece. Whereas my mom, she's a psychotherapist and counselor herself, so she looks after the whole clinical side of things. Besides, obviously being the founder and looking after, the daily nitty gritties of all of that. And in terms of I Can Fly as well, which is an institute for special needs individuals. And Cafe I Can Fly came as an offshoot of I Can Fly, which is a cafe with a cause. It's the first cafe in the city of Joy and in the country, which is run by special needs individuals. So, coming to your question, that how is it working, as a mother-daughter duo? I feel that, honestly speaking, personally and professionally, personally, I would say my mom and I are quite similar in a lot of ways. But professionally, I think we are like chalk and cheese in terms of, her working style and my working style is very different. And that's the beauty of things. Because it's so different, like the parts she looks after, I don't manage her business. And what I look after, she doesn't interfere in my business. And which is why it's so amazing, because it's like, it's a marriage of sorts of, like she does what she does, I do what I do. But when it comes to overall, big decision making or big policy changes, stuff like that, we always discuss that and come to a conclusion. So it's also really interesting because, like we're constantly thinking, sleeping, eating, work, because she happens to be my mother and we live together, we work together all the time. Manage to take out that time to do other things as well, like go for a drive on a Sunday, or like take out time which is like just time to talk about other things which is beyond business. So that's what I feel. I think mom can also add what she feels about working with me or coexisting with me personally.
No, I think you have mentioned two wonderful points. One is that complementing each other, having complementary sets of skills, which is, very important, but also coming to a consensus, into, managing the whole, game. So definitely, and I love that weekend drive thing between, which helps you bond as a mother-daughter outside business hours, and, also are your wonderful, business partners as well. So coming back to Minu ma'am's profession as a psychotherapist, ma'am, next question is actually for you. Your initiative of Caring Minds, which we said that, it's a mental health institute. So what is the motivation and inspiration of, coming into this sector? And did you face any roadblocks? Were there any roadblocks? If there were, how did you overcome them?
So there is a story behind it. I'm a special mother of a special daughter. When she was 3 year old and started going to school, lots of complaints started pouring in. And that was when I took her for the assessment to NIMHANS. And the assessment, you know, took me into depression, because there she was diagnosed with low IQ and ADHD. So, and then I was severely depressed and was suicidal. So then my husband took me to a psychiatrist and I was medicated. So after some time, I started doing well, and my journey with Prachi started. And Prachi is my inspiration for my all these organization, and she's my weakness as well, and as Priyam is my strength. So I always say that she's my weakness, she's my strength. So when I with Prachi, actually I started traveling all over the world, finding for answers, how to help her in different ways, and but still I could not accept her fully, because I was always finding of some solutions. And in the meantime, I also trained myself as a psychotherapist, and at the same time, one day it was like that I accepted Prachi as an individual who she is, a special child. And when I came back to India, then I thought, because of my so much knowledge and my certification, I thought, why not to start something which will help the city of Kolkata, because I could not see any one center where all the services related to mental health was under one roof. So then my journey started with Caring Minds. So you are asking what were the roadblocks? So roadblocks, yes, in our country, log kya kahenge, loge ki bolbe. There are so many. This still, when my daughter was born, there was lots of stigma. We have come a long way, but still we have to go a long way again. So when there was so much of stigma when I started Caring Minds and I started the interiors. The local people, they came and they said they were really devastated to hear that, not hear, devastated to feel that the people will be coming here for treatment. So they just got the stay order and we stopped our. I was devastated because I hired my staff. Everything was done. So that was a big setback. Then nothing doing. And I knew law and this thing will take education will take long, and my journey was, my mission was to come to set up Caring Minds. So then I started Caring Minds from a small room from my house with my a small set of employees, and started working. And now where is Caring Minds? Then after some time, me and my family, we took another place and moved Caring Minds from our house to that place. So this is how my journey started from Caring Minds.
That is really amazing, ma'am. Thank you so much for opening us and sharing, something so personal, and I think it is very, very inspirational that how you turned something that otherwise could have been, dubbed as a shortcoming or a weakness into, something, into such a wonderful growth. I think it's truly an inspiration. If nothing else, this is right here isn't such an inspirational story of, if you have the will to do something, that you can overcome anything. And people say that, once you're successful, people say that, they don't realize the problems behind it, they don't realize how hard you have worked to get where you are today. So this is definitely an inspiration. And thank you once again for sharing it with us, that how you overcame so many roadblocks, and you are where you wanted to be. And as you rightly said, probably there is still a long way to go, because yes, I see that there is a lot of stigma, there are a lot of people who need help, who want that help, but sadly are unable to do that. So just a quick thing here. So I am a cognitive behavioral therapy practitioner myself. So I understand, there are so many people, they say that, no, please don't tell, somebody. So if it's a relative, sometimes, they try to, come to us and they say that, please don't tell that, we are undergoing therapy, or we are talking to you, we are consulting. So we really need to, get that out. And it's a true problem, because there are so many problems that come to mind. Thank you for starting Caring Minds at such a big level that I hope a lot of people can be helped.
And I'm very happy that we are able to break the stigma to a certain extent.
Absolutely.
Through Caring Minds and sharing because this is not for name and fame that we are still sharing our. This is why people who are just pushing themselves inside the carpet. Because I've seen so many people came out after my story, this thing sharing. They came out and they came to my clinic, but still, so many people, they say, oh, Minu Budhia, I won't go there because she will talk in the public. So they don't realize it's a professional, this thing that we can't talk.
Absolutely. We cannot talk about our patients. We can definitely, but we are free to share our own story. So definitely, and our stories, we, like I said, it is an inspiration. You are definitely inspiring, and people who don't realize that, it is probably actually their loss if they don't realize and take that inspiration and go ahead. Yes, Priyam, please go ahead.
I just like to add that the basic premise of seeking mental health treatment, which is counseling, the basic premise is confidentiality.
Exactly.
So, for example, if suppose a client comes in and they talk to counselor A, right? So even our counselor B or counselor C will also not know the conversation that happened between counselor A and the client. And I guess this kind of trust in the brand, that is, say, Caring Minds or organization, which is the mental health care clinic. So this trust in the brand name, the credibility of the brand name, this sort of builds up over time. And then people, when they gain that trust in you, that already a stigma to do with mental health in the East, in India, and on top of that, they need to gain that credibility about the brand, that
Right.
that it'll just be between us. So as that happens, then more and more people come out and start talking about it. But we also, I'd like to share that, we've been 8 years and running now, and also we've managed to touch over 22 lakh lives, right from kids with
Amazing.
special needs, right, like people like you and me who may have had stress, depression, relationship issues, and also people in their senior citizens who may have Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, dementia, all of that. So it's not just that it's for, some people think it's only for kids or it's only for a certain segment. So it's literally for anyone and everyone to do with mental health, directly or indirectly, and also it's available online and offline, and also our services are affordable. A lot of people think that, oh, mental health treatment will probably be very expensive. When they come into our facility, honestly, Caring Minds is quite a bright, happy, positive-looking space. So, when they come and they see, oh, this looks like, a five-star facility almost. So that means the services are going to be expensive. But that's not true. It's actually very affordable and at par with any other, institute of this kind. So that's just some of the points which I felt, are worth sharing and for people to know. And really, like, we need to get beyond the log kya kahenge for sure.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. So, Priyam, since we are talking to you, I would like to go back to the part where you spoke, you spend so much time there in UK, for your education, for your, initial professional experiences. So, how did you decide to, come back? I think you did share a little bit, but we would like to know a little more details of, you coming back and joining your family, your family side of business as well as, with your mom.
Sure. So this is actually one of my favorite questions or the story that I love to share. So just to give you a little background, I was in the UK for about 7 years. I was studying at the University of Nottingham doing my management studies. Thereafter, I was at the LSE, London School of Economics, where I pursued my management and entrepreneurship courses. Following that, I started, you'll be very surprised to know that I actually started my professional journey with banking. So I was working with Lehman Brothers, which was one of the top investment banks at that point of time. This was in September 2008, exactly when the global credit crisis hit the entire world. And just like to clarify that the reason the bank went down, I wasn't the reason. So I was there for just a week, literally 5 days into training, and we go into work the next day on the 15th of September, and the HR comes in and tells us that, guys, you can go get your lunch at the cafeteria and then you're done for the day. You can go home. And this was a Monday. We had 6th day of my job, so I didn't know whether I had a job or not after that. Anyway, it just took me that one day to feel a complete mixed bag of emotions, from like shock to surprise to I was sad, I was annoyed, why me? Why me? Like I was this young who had gone back home for the summer, very excited to start my first ever job in an investment bank, and that in a fast-paced city like London. And then 1 week into your job, this happens to you. So I was just like really perplexed and quite like shaken, to be honest. That's it. It was just that one day. The very next day, I told myself that, am I going to be, sad, depressed? Am I going to brood about what's happened? Or does life move on? So I immediately zapped my and decided that the only way to survive in this competitive world, and if I really want, see, there were two paths for me. Either I could have gone back into a comfort zone, gone back home, joined my mom, joined my dad immediately, or I could have stuck it out and proved to myself and the world that it's a competitive world. It is the global credit crisis, almost impossible to get a job at that point of time. But I think there was something within me where I was just consumed and obsessed and possessed that I have to, prove myself and get a job again. So I was jobless for about 5 months. I did lots of, funny part-time jobs like selling softy ice cream on the streets of London, being a cashier at the Sainsbury's.
How many of those softies did you have yourself?
I didn't cheat too much, just a few. But like I used to go to London with my family for a holiday. I used to always dream that, I wish I could be that man selling softie on the streets of
Yeah.
London. So, that's why I did that job just for like 2 days. It was such a thrill to do it. So that was one. And then the other thing is, like distributing newspapers on the streets of London. Any odd job I could do just to make some money to be able to survive and pay my rent off, while I didn't have a job. So I remained jobless like this, like a girl just living alone, trying to find a job for 5 months, and went for some 200 interviews, honestly, without any exaggeration. Applying to investment banks, management consultancies, even applying to, like departmental stores, just any job. Finally, after 5 months of this torture, of this toil, but a great learning experience. I actually landed a job with Barclays Capital, which was another great investment bank. And then there was no looking back because I joined Barclays. I was there for 2 years. It was an amazing experience. And, after the 2 years, I decided that it was a great experience, but banking was not me. I was not made for this black and white world of banking. I was somebody who was more creative, more entrepreneurial, and I just thought that India is a great place to be. And honestly, my parents also would be super happy to have me back. So it was a mix of both. It was my dad did a great, a great sales pitch to, have me back in India. Oh, if you come back to India, then you can be the head of business development and you can grow the business. Hats off to him. He also sold it really well. And I also felt that it's a great time to come back to India. And similar, my mom had all these ideas about starting up, these beautiful ventures which she's doing. And, I felt that it would be great to, come back and support her as well. So this is why I moved back to India back in 2011. It's been 10 years now that I'm back. Now, when I look back, honestly, earlier, maybe I would say for 2 years, I was quite miserable because it was a transition
Right.
in terms of, a completely different working culture, work ethics were different, and also, especially in the family business and pattern, everyone was double my age. Everyone was double my age, and for people to, for them to take me seriously, and I can't just be a boss's daughter and expect people to take me seriously. It doesn't work like that.
Absolutely.
I have to earn my really earn my respect and prove that I'm here not just as the boss's daughter, but also, sort of to add value. So, that takes a while. So yeah, it took a while, and then finally now I head the plastics vertical in the family business, and I've also started some other verticals like the sustainability and the innovation verticals. And besides that, I work with my mom, joined her in and Cafe I Can Fly. So it's been a great experience, honestly. Like right from my UK days up to India, and it's also fun because working with dad is very different from working with mom. The team with Caring Minds and Cafe I Can Fly is pretty much my age, so I sort of get my creative burst here, and working with dad is like hardcore business. So there it's like, very like, it's we talk to the point, it's business, it's meetings, it's serious stuff, it's black and white, and working with mom is like be as creative as you can be.
So you're enjoying both the worlds, right? So we can say you're having the best of both worlds, and it's a very I don't know, it's a privilege to be working with both your mom, with your dad, and having so many array of experiences, and I'm sure they both have their own experiences and teachings to share with you. So yeah, it's been very lucky, right? So
Yeah, I feel I'm blessed for sure.
absolutely.
Also to add my grandfather as well, because he's the one who started Pattern. My dad is the second gen who took it to the next level, and I'm the next gen. So in fact, I think it's really hard to match up to my father's shoes or my grandfather's shoes, but I'm trying to do my bit with whatever I can, and it's very interesting. It's a learning experience on a daily basis, to be honest.
So yeah, I think the story you shared about living it out there, and in fact fighting it out there in UK. That is another inspiring stories. I think I have heard so far. Whatever I have heard, I want to talk to both of you for hours, and probably, I am sure that we will have so many lovely stories and so much of inspiration that is coming out. So as you said, it was, of course, coming back to a cushion, coming back into a bubble would have been the most convenient way, but you decided not to do that, but rather prove it to, I think it was more of proving it to your own self than to anybody else. And that is, very much required when you want to go out there and do something, and you have done it so wonderfully. And that's why probably, as you were saying, you wanted to prove it to your seniors who were there in, senior in age, who were in pattern, and I'm sure you have done it an amazing job so far as I know you. So coming back to our discussions about, your ventures. So from Caring Minds to Cafe I Can Fly, how was it, how was the journey, and how was it that from a hardcore complete mental institute, you went on to something a little more focused, a little more narrowed down? How was the journey from Caring Minds to Cafe I Can Fly?
Like the story goes back behind. Like
Okay.
cafe is just a part of a large institute. I Can Fly.
Mm-hmm.
Institute for Special Needs. So when I was running Caring Minds, I used to meet so many parents who were always anxious, worried that what will their children do when they grow up. Like in India, where after finishing their school, like in all the schools after 16 or 17, you really have to got to do nothing. You need to sit at home. And also, I was all the time I was thinking, what will my daughter do when she grows up? Although I put her into lots of sports, thinking what will she do when she grows up, how she will pass her time. So that gave birth to I Can Fly. I Can Fly started as a vocational training institute for 15 plus individuals, but later when I found out that there's a lot more demand, then I started 3 plus also. So right now we're having three, like pre-vocational, vocational, and also interventional. So there are 3 parts, and we take all the age of children, right from 3 to our oldest student is now 42-year-old.
Lovely.
Yeah. So cafes, we in I Can Fly, we started like from bakery. So as a bakery, we really got very good popularity, and we started taking part in lots of exhibitions. So after attending exhibitions, me and Prim both, we were very keen on starting cafe, so that our children, or maybe you say young adults who are growing up, we wanted to make them more confident, more happy. So we came up with this idea of starting a cafe, which will be run by special needs individuals. So it is a cafe with a cause. It's not a it's not a normal.
Right.
You go there, you will find. It is not our regular, like our special needs children. They don't cook. They don't go to the hot zone. They are not allowed. But they do all the cafe service, like taking the orders, serving, and then talking to the customer and suggesting them items. So they do all these kind of things. So I think now Priyam can take it forward.
Yeah, to what Mum said, I Can Fly. In fact, we just had I Can Fly's birthday a couple of days back, and we just completed 6 years. So thank you. So I Can Fly does a whole lot of activities with the special needs individuals. Say individuals and not kids, because as Mum said, the youngest is 3 and the oldest we have right now is 42, and there is no upper age limit. And here we're taught, everything from dance, yoga, music, craft, data entry, sports, academic skills, etc., etc. And it's essentially a training institute, and also an institute to sort of empower them with employment opportunities. So all the food products like the roasted chirwa, there's tandoori, there's baking nachos and crackers that these kids make. And we also make all these, handcrafted products like multicolored kettles, paper bags, envelopes, which is part of the I Can Fly craft factory. these things are put up in stores, exhibitions, and then whatever money is earned, the special kids, they also get a stipend at the end of the month, and it helps to boost their whole morale and self-esteem. We also take on data entry jobs from corporates, government organizations, clubs, etc., and the kids get paid for what they do. So it's a two-pronged approach. It's to sort of train the special needs and at the same time also empower them by providing them employment opportunities. So this is what I stands for. And as an offshoot of I Can Fly, we started Cafe I Can Fly, which is now it's going to be 5 years this August, and it's a cafe for the cause. We started with a very small cafe. It was actually just a 22-seater cafe, and now it's a 50-seater cafe. It has an indoor area and an outdoor space, and every cafe has a niche. Right, like some cafe is known for maybe its shisha, or some is known for its coffee. But like our cafe, the main USP is it is a cafe which is run by special needs individuals. So when you walk into the cafe, they are the ones who sort of meet you, greet you, seat you, and then after that they take your order, they serve you, and it's a happy space, and we call our cafe a happy place. Also, every customer who walks into the cafe is called our cheerleader. So that's another thing. And this cafe is known to be more of a family-friendly cafe, because we have like a lot of events going on all the time. So obviously not now during the pandemic, but before that we had a lot of like live music events. We had comedy. We used to have board gaming, art workshops, karaoke, things like that. So it's and there's also an indoor play area for little children. So because of that, we generally the cafe is quite booked out for events like baby showers, or like things like ladies kitty parties, or like just birthday parties for kids. So that's what the cafe mostly is popular for. And one thing that I'd like to add is before starting the cafe, the journey to the lead up to the cafe, actually we had to undergo a lot of mock training sessions for our special kids who would be serving at the cafe, because regular staff, they could be maybe trained 2 days, 3 days, or maybe a week, but with them we had trials to teach them step by step. This is the way you hold a tray, this is how you serve the glass, this is how you put the straw, right? And these trainings went on for like months, literally. And then we made a lot of people are guinea pigs, happily, like from our close family, close friends, and our staff. They would serve as the guinea pigs, sampling all the food, sampling all the trials that the special kids did. So it was a long and beautiful journey opening the cafe, and now it's sort of serves as a 24/7 awareness tool, sort of establishing the fact that the capabilities of the special needs individuals. Because when we opened the space, we thought that will the cafe be well received in the city of joy? Because like when you come into the cafe, you might walk into the cafe out of sympathy only once, right? Oh, it's a cafe run by special needs, so sweet, let's go, one time. After that, if the food is not good, if the quality is not good, if the service is not good, if the vibe is not nice, you won't come back again. You won't sympathize the second time. You won't empathize the second time. Back if it's genuinely good, like any other cafe. So we're actually put in competition with other cafes in the city, and we survived that, and now we're doing. So very happy to share that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you are, very right. So people come. So the very first time. So I think it's not just with Cafe I Can Fly. Any place, people would walk in any service or any product. People probably try it out the first time because of the story that is there. But then later on, the loyalty is built because of the overall package, with the ambience, with the quality, with the people that they are being, how they are being treated. So definitely, so nobody comes back for the story again and again. Once they have once they know the story, they want to come back for the experience, just to be there. And like I said, I have been there, and it's a positive place. It gives such a wonderful vibes, whether it's the colors, whether it is how we were treated. And there are some, I think, so if I can add, I saw some indoor board games or something like that to keep yourself, entertained with your friends, family, or something like that. It's again a very, unusual concept. You're not just sitting there with your smartphones. You actually get to talk and play, and spend some time with your friends and family. So I actually have so many questions, still coming up, and I would love to go on and on, but just for the interest of time, and you people are also, very busy. So I just want to have one last question, which is what would you, as a mother-daughter duo, or as a woman entrepreneur, as social entrepreneurs, what would be your advice to aspiring entrepreneurs who are trying to venture out into the social sector or mental health sector? And what would also be your personal advice to, kind of take a break, like, you all have your own way of. So how do you, so two questions basically I'm trying to, put together. One is, how do you take break from all your ventures, take time for your personal things? And as entrepreneurs, what would be your advice?
So I think any work or any job you do, if you enjoy the job, that becomes a passion. And if you enjoy the job, you don't need a break actually. Um,
Absolutely.
I
I
think
agree to that. I agree to that.
if you don't if you don't enjoy the job, then you need a break, then you are tired. For me, it's my mind is always thinking day and night about all the time about I can fly, cafe, then caring mind, so it goes on and on. So yeah, we need breaks. So for that, I think family time, me time with Priam. I watch lots of Netflix also. I really get very relaxed while watching Netflix because I was a movie because I always like to watch movie. And your next question is that what is our advice to what we can advise, but what I would say is first thing that you should love yourself. If you love yourself, then and you have to have the passion. Anything, if you think that I want to do this or I want to venture into that, you have to have that passion and
Right.
have to go to some that length that nothing is unturned. If you have the passion, I think you will be able to break it. You have to have the passion and love yourself. And we always, what happens, we always try to see what is our minus point and we work on that. But I always think like it's imperfection is beauty is my mantra. So you should work on what is your strength, not on your weaknesses. So work on your strength, and, and as long as and weakness will be a part of strength. Why only strength? I don't agree to it. All these are the part of your personality. They should go hand in hand. And to whoever is hearing, I would say just love yourself and find a passion what you want to do and do it fully and professionally and personally.
It's a wonderful advice, ma'am. It's a wonderful advice to love you. So, what happens most of the times? People think that self-love is, is either a luxury or it's a selfishness. But I feel it's a necessity, because you cannot pour from an empty cup. As simple as that. If you don't have that love or that confidence to give in within yourself, how are you going to give it out to us? So like I said, when we go to your cafe or when we are sitting right here, I am very sure that everybody who would be listening to this would feel all that positive vibes coming out, because I think there is so much of positivity that is radiating here. We're not talking about negative things. There are negative things in life, but as so rightly you mentioned that we have to focus on the positive things, the strength, and keep growing them rather than think of the negative things. Prem, what about you? Any advice?
Yeah, so talking about how I sort of de-stress in my personal time, as Mum put it very beautifully, I totally agree. I firstly I am a workaholic. That's one, and the second thing is I really enjoy what I do. So I don't have these buckets in my head, which is like this is work and this is not work. that would only be there if I was doing something which I don't enjoy. And if you don't enjoy something, you always keep delaying it or procrastinating it. But if you enjoy it, on a daily basis, you'll be excited that, oh, today, what are the problems that I'm going to face today? Because every day is actually about creative problem solving, right? And it's about challenging situations coming your way, you having your presence of mind, and then seeing, okay, so now what can we do in this situation? So every day you have to be an engineer actually to think, today this is the problem, what do we do, so for me, like, that's very interesting, like, that's one part. And what I do to I would say outside of work is, I'm pretty big on fitness. So, whether it be badminton, which I completely love, or it be swimming in the summers, or it be, like, gymming, working out in any way. It could even be a really fun Bollywood Bhangra dance workout, any form of. So that's one thing that keeps me going for sure. And the other thing, when things are normal and the pandemic, things open up. I mean, I'm running away, and for a very long time, I love traveling. I really love traveling. So that's one thing that really keeps me, it energizes me to the next level. Unexplored places, exotic places, new people, new conversations. So I love that. That's that. And coming to your second question, which is advice to entrepreneurs or anyone who wants to enter the social, or just entrepreneurs of any kind, male, female, whatever. I would say that I completely again resonate with mom about self-love, self-awareness, embracing your strengths rather than your weaknesses, imperfections, all of that stuff. But adding to that, I somebody who is very much about, earlier there was a phrase called carpe diem, which is seize the day. I've actually made that carpe omnia, which is seize every moment and seize every opportunity that comes your way. And this actually comes from, I'll make an honest confession that earlier on in my life, I feel that I have not been a very carpe diem kind of person. I feel there are many opportunities which came my way which I did not grab, and which is why in the last 5 years of my life I've become all about carpe omnia now. So I actually genuinely seize every opportunity in my personal life, my professional life, because I feel that the moment is now, and this moment is never coming back. So there's just no point wasting that moment being sad or brooding or like being angry. What's the point? So make the most of that moment. So that's one. And an advice to entrepreneurs is that when you genuinely have an idea, do think about, firstly, passion is of course important. If you want to be an entrepreneur, for beyond the 9 to 5, an entrepreneur does not have the mindset of a 9 to 5 at all. And also just having an idea is not enough. You have to have the resources for it. Resources doesn't just mean money. It actually also means a lot of other things, like the support, the infrastructure. Do you have the network to scale it up? Do you have the correct mentors, who can help you, guide you through the process? Have you really done your research? Because making a business plan one time is not enough. You need to change it. You need to be adaptable as per the needs of the market. And are you solving a real world problem? Is it really commercially feasible? So these are some other valuable tips that I would say. And empowered women empower women. So, I feel that we should all encourage our fellow women entrepreneurs to step up, and take up senior positions in organizations if you are a professional. And if you're an entrepreneur, then, it'll be lovely to see more and more women founders and co-founders come forth. And that's my 2 cents on, how to be a happy and successful entrepreneur.
Yeah, I think all those points that you mentioned were really pertinent and to the point. Absolutely. We need to have a bigger vision than in the moment kind of a thing. Oh, it's a wonderful idea. Let's start this. We cannot really jump into that. We need a proper plan. We need to think how it's going to work. And it was practical advice, I would say. And when you talk about women entrepreneurs, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, sure. I would like one thing that for anything you really need family support, and I have all the our drawing room conversation is my startups, more than me. My husband will talk about it, and he's so interested. So many times I think why he's so interested, but this is the how he's
Yeah.
doing behind things, and because of all his supports, because we are able to actually come such a long way. So all thanks to the family, not only him, the whole.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's important to acknowledge people who are there to support you, not just financially, but even morally and emotionally as well. It's very equally important.
And
So
I would like to add here actually to what mom said, when we say family, it's actually extended family as well, which constitutes our team because the team is really the backbone behind all the organizations. So,
true.
immense, immense gratitude for, all our teams at Pattern, at Caring Minds, at I Can Fly, at Cafe I Can Fly, all of them, because I think every drop in the ocean counts. So,
Absolutely.
it's really important to have that solid foundation and along with your team supporting you every step of the way.
Absolutely. So when we were talking about, you spoke about women entrepreneurs, I think it is even less here in Kolkata, specifically if we are talking about. So we had this Startup Grind chapter directors meeting, and apart from me, there was only two more female chapter directors. So I started my first into fireside chat was a woman entrepreneur who is into sustainable manufacturing. Today, you both lovely ladies are here. So, to be very honest, I'm being a little biased, and I am trying to invite more and more women entrepreneurs and women speakers on this platform. So it's very easy to get hold of someone who is, very successful, someone who has spoken to so many platforms, come here and, be a guru. But that's not, to be very honest, my envision is what I want is people who have actually faced so many real life challenges. They have seen how things work, and especially women who can come and encourage other women to grow and become a part of it. So I am kind of by design trying to focus more, having more and more women here with me rather than so I'm trying my best to get more women here. So yeah, so thank you so much for your time. Would you like to add something else, or shall we call it a day today?
No, I think I would just like to end that saying that just have faith in yourself, and if you do have an idea, do your research well, and you know like don't live a life where you have regrets that you really want to do something in 10 years down the line. You think that, oh, I had that and then I didn't do this. So it's not worth having regrets. So, do the research well and then jump into it. But when you feel ready enough, jump into it. But don't like overthink and overanalyze and then just not do it. When you feel ready, just do it. The time is now.
True, absolutely perfect. I think it's a yeah.
Also you should learn the skills like when I wanted to with Prachi, when I was with her for all the therapies, I trained myself. You see, I could have become only a promoter and opened a mental health clinic, but I myself became a psychotherapist so that I know the nitty gritty. So
Absolutely.
to be a skilled also to run anything or to start anything.
I think that is the true entrepreneurial, I would say, because if you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to know what is it that you're getting it. You have to know it inside out. You cannot just, hire people and, be done with it. You have to know what it is that you want and how you want to go about it. So that is a perfect example. So both of you have given such wonderful, closing advices. It's really nice to have you. I hope we can connect, probably more, have more people among us, and continue this lovely, relationship and conversation for a longer time.